unfortunately, as we speak, RAM has become the new gold. You see, this green thing right here called random access memory. Like you all know, without this thing, your PC is not going to boot up. And depending on the kind of PC that you have, without this RAM sticks right here, your PC is just going to be making some peeping sound. This Lenovo tends to make some kind of bang, 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 bong. There are different kind of noises. Like I said, if you have a Dell PC, a Fujitsu, an Acer PC, the noise that will be made by the main board when there are no RAM sticks are different. But that's not the issue. The issue right now is that this thing right here has become the new gold. Permit me to say that because the event of the past few days have pretty much shown that this thing right here has become the new gold, especially when it comes to, hardwares. It has always been that graphic card was the new gold, very expensive. But right now, I am shocked. The thing that actually beats me below the belt is that the moment you think that you have seen everything, boom, from nowhere, something new comes up and you begin to ask yourself, whoever would have seen this coming? Nobody thought that RAM sticks. Look, if you look at my previous videos, I'm talking about videos I made like 2-3 years ago. I physically was taking RAM sticks like this. I was breaking them just to, kind of make some stunts on my video because at the time, RAM sticks were pretty much worthless. They were very cheap to come by. You could go, online and get them for like 5, 6 euros, 9 euros, 10 euros, as the case may be. So I could afford to break them at the time. But right now, this thing right here, just one module, costs 79 euros. I am also shocked. What am I saying? Just an 8 gigabyte, module of a DDR4 RAM cost 89 euros because I still bought it today and I am shocked. And the price keeps increasing every day. See, I was one of the first creators that did raise an alarm. I was like, have you guys noticed the price of RAM? Because typically, a lot of the content creators that are in the tech space, they do not have an online shop. I have an online shop, Hardware Money, where I sell, responsible pieces like this, tower PCs, mini PCs, laptop, name them. Because I sell these PCs, every now and again, I always have, need to put RAM sticks on these PCs, pretty much upgrade them according to what, the buyers of this PC are actually asking for. And I realized that in the last 2 weeks, the prices of RAM just started rising out of the blues from nowhere. Nobody would have thought that RAM sticks that we used to buy, 8 gigabyte module of a DDR4 RAM like this would have cost like €9.99, 16.99 cents if it was very, very expensive. But right now, like I said, this thing is sitting at 89 euros. I'm not going to kid you. And if you decide to get 4 sticks, you do the math. Just a few days ago, we were able to buy 32 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM. It doesn't matter. These are Samsung RAMs. It didn't matter if it were a Micron, SK Hynix, Acer. We're able to buy 32 gigabytes of this thing for pretty much about 79 euros, 89 euros if it was very, very expensive. But right now, I'm telling you guys, for 160 euros, you are not able to get a 2 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM. And the funny thing is that these RAM sticks are even nowhere to be found. This is pretty much why I am saying to you, this is the new gold right now. I have been checking on the internet. Of course, there are videos popping right and left, trying to explain the reason as to why this thing has just suddenly become very expensive. But at the end of the day, the manufacturers are not saying anything. No one actually knows why it's expensive, but I can tell you for sure that this is not connected to the fact that the year is coming to an end. It's not connected to any kind of delay in shipping process because sometimes, of course, we experience delays here and there. A ship coming from China is kind of delayed. Because of that, goods are just stuck at sea. Nobody has goods, but I'm telling you guys, this is not related to that. It's not related to shipping delay. It's not related to the Utah season because RAM sticks typically do not tend to, be good, item that you buy as gifts to your loved ones. If somebody is, having a birthday, you do not just wake up and, buy a RAM stick, to surprise him or her. This typically is not affected by the festive season. And the only one thing I can think about is that, look, these RAM sticks are gradually being bought up by some of the big companies, especially the companies that have very big interest in this AI race that's currently going on. People are taking advantage of it. The big players are putting an untold amount of demand to the point that the shops that are set up to cater for consumers like you and I might be having difficulty, laying their hands on these things. I'm telling you, just happened at once. I went on to Amazon to check all the brands suddenly just had an increase in the price of RAM stick. It's kind of very tricky, kind of very, take a look at it. How can it be said that, Crucial, Vengeance, Silicon Power, Samsung, Art of the Blues, at the same time, everybody just started increasing the price of their RAM sticks to the point that this thing keeps rising up every day. Even Acer, the last time I checked it, 32 gigabyte of DDR4 RAM from Acer is nowhere to be found. If you go to the Amazon page and try to click on it, you're going to be shocked because there are no RAM sticks to be bought. Guys, this thing right here is the new gold. If you have these RAM sticks for one reason or the other, please, you want to keep it as long as you can, because nobody knows what is going to happen. Because if the price keep rising every day, it's pretty much adding like €2 every day. So today might be €179. I'm not so sure what the price would be in 5 days from now. So if you have, RAM sticks lying around, you used to think that these are 8 gigabyte modules, you do not really need them, because now on your system, you have pretty much a better RAM configuration. But I want to beg you, if you have this 8 gigabyte module, especially if you have these RAM sticks from, products like Samsung, Acer, Silicon Power, SK Hynix, Vengeance, Crucial, and the likes like that, please, you want to keep it, because you might pretty much be sitting down on the new gold. You never can tell. This thing might suddenly become €400 a piece, and it could even become more expensive, because the moment this thing becomes very, very hard to get and the big companies want to lay their hands on this thing, you might be surprised. You might be offered an untold amount of money. Of course, it's very speculative. I'm not saying that is going to happen, but if the current increase that we have seen in the last 2 days is anything to go by, I'm telling you for free that this RAM in the coming weeks has the capacity to sell for €100 a stick. I'm talking about 8 gigabyte of DDR4 RAM. Of course, DDR5 RAM is not in my radar right now, but I'm telling you, if the current price I am seeing right now is true, this thing is going to be very expensive in the coming days. So if you have RAM sticks lying around in your house, you have them in your offices, you have them in your broken PC that you have just left, you are pretty much holding on to gold. And if you are lucky, the price might just keep rising to the point that you're going to be shocked how much you can realize if you decide to bring them to the marketplaces and sell them. Of course, it's not the end of the road. We still have PCs that have the 2 gigabyte of DDR4 RAMs. The beautiful thing is that these PCs were stocked up when the prices of RAMs were still very, very cheap. So if you go to the hardware money shop right now, you should be able to get a responsible PC like this, Lenovo ThinkCentre M720T. You should be able to get a responsible PC like this, still with a 2 gigabyte of DDR4 RAM at a very, very cheap price. Of course, in the last few days, we have actually sold a lot of these PCs. The reason is not far-fetched. You see, on these PCs are still RAM sticks that came pretty much cheap. But any moment from now, people are just going to realize, you know what? Instead of spending €200, buying just RAM stick, why not just buy a whole PC that already has the 2 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM? And then in this case, you have access to the SSD, which is a very smart decision to make. You have access to the SSD, to the power supply, to the PC itself, to the mechanical hard drive, to the DVD drive, and all the cables, SATA cables, the processor and stuff like that. And then you can just go ahead and pull out your RAM stick, and thereafter go ahead and set the RAM sticks even at double the price. This is me just, thinking as a businessman. But of course, I'm not expecting that you go that route. But if you are looking for a PC that's kind of decent, especially the one I have right here, a Lenovo ThinkCentre M710P,